is 25th of December and it's a Christmas day. I want to say Merry Christmas to every person who is enjoying his or her day. As we always do every Sunday, we bring you the business edition where we make a recap of the stories that made the headlines in our weekly bulletin. I want to say be comfortable in that sitting room. Among the stories we're bringing, we're going to talk about the IMF, that's the International Monetary Fund loan that has been extended to our government. That's $240 million that the government is going to receive in as far as our loan is concerned. Get comfortable. I'll be right back in just a short break. You're most welcome back from that break, and the business edition starts now. Like I said, we're going to start with the additional loan that the IMF, that's the International Monetary Fund, has allocated to the government of Uganda. And that loan is $240 million. That's equivalent to 873.8 billion that is coming in Uganda as a loan. And according to the World Bank, this money is going to help us in the economic growth. And I saw the PSST, that's the PS to the Minister of Finance, Gobi, saying that this money, we can risk getting it at the moment since our debt sustainability is not that bad. So we can risk having this. Let's have more of this very story that happened. The International Monetary Fund, IMF staff, has reached an agreement with the Ugandan authorities on a conclusion of the combined second and third reviews of the Extended Credit Facility Supported Program. Following the IMF Executive Board assessment, Uganda is to receive $240 million, that's approximately 873.8 billion, increasing the total IMF financial assistance under the Extended Credit Facility Financed Program to $625 million.
For terms, this is one of the best debts Uganda can ever have. And he has also emphasized that our debt in Uganda is still very sustainable, and we are now in the moderate risk as far as debt is concerned. So we are quite very comfortable.
All in all, as a Bank of Uganda, we see that this sub-level agreement that we have reached today regarding the second and the third reviews are all in support of our mission statement of maintaining price stability and a sound financial system in support of socio-economic transformation. So once again, thank you very much for that, and we look forward to this level of cooperation and collaboration going forward. Thank you.
Speaking to officials from the Ministry of Finance and the Bank of Uganda on Zoom from Washington, D.C., Mala Naba, the IMF Mission Chief to Uganda, notes that the Executive Board and the IMF management will need to approve the agreement in the upcoming weeks.
We are at this point announcing a staff level agreement, but we still need to have the executive board discussion on this review, and the executive board, the IMF executive board, will be discussing this review in the next few weeks in the new year. And it's only upon the completion of the executive board review that the IMF will be able to disperse that money. So we still have to wait for the executive board review before the money can be dispersed. In terms of the priorities,
this loan is still essential for realizing Uganda's growth potential, moving the financial inclusion agenda forward, boosting the stability of the private sector, and coping up with the climate change. Yeah, we're speaking economic growth, and every time we go out to get these loans, the way we use the loan is the most important thing. And according to the statement coming in from the PS, that's the Permanent Secretary from the Minister of Finance, Ramadan Gobi, this money can be sustainable here. We can use it to do some other programs in as far as development is concerned. But the agreement is subjected to approval by the IMF management and the executive board in the coming weeks. So immediately after Christmas, as we are approaching to the next year, we'll be receiving this money That's equivalent to 873.8 billion that will be coming to the country to spur or to help in the economic growth. As far as payment, we'll be paying slowly by slowly, but according to the PS, this money is sustainable. We can as well pay slowly by slowly, and according to him, this is the best loan Uganda has ever received, like you had in a story. Now, getting to another story here, we saw over the weekend the President Museveni, that's His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, traveled to Kasese district in the western Uganda, to Bondwe Lubiriha, to commission the one-stop border at the border there in Kasese district. According to information coming in from there, this one-stop border will help to harness the relationship between Congo and Uganda and enhancing the trade between the two countries. I saw very many dignitaries. That's the Bank of Uganda also was also there. I also saw Rijochi, that's the Commissioner General from Uganda Revenue Authority. I also saw the PS from the Minister of Trade. All of them were on ground, and the Minister for Trade, that's Ntabazi Harriet, they're also on ground on the commissioning of one-stop border at Mbondwe in Kasese district in western Uganda. Let's have a look at this very story.
But the problem has been that some of the people were not bothering to earn money through agriculture. They were working for a chida kyonka, working only for the stomach. Now, here in Kasese, you fragmented the land. You say population is 1.2 million and all that, but when we gave Kasese district, you were only 190,000. Now, with agriculture, we start with homestead incomes, commercial agriculture, with the Kibaro. So then you select, you should select, because now I don't think many people still have the 4 acres, but you select like the ones of Renga, some 1 or 2 of those activities, and then you concentrate on those.
He urges that it is simple to conduct business when the entire family is involved in agriculture because everyone would be part of the chain. He then pushed them to resume their normal operations, claiming that the coronavirus was the only cause of their closed markets.
I will come back and we have a proper talk. I want you to stabilize agriculture in Kasese so that these smaller farms become farms which continue generation after generation. Rwakitora was there when Mzee Kaguta was there. It is there now. When Museveni is there, it will be there after Museveni has gone to heaven. And I put it in my will that if the children don't want to farm anymore, they can sell it to another Ugandan, but another Ugandan buys something whole. Let them sell it to another Ugandan so that he continues using it for production. Now, once you stabilize agriculture, like for instance in the families, that small family's farm of 1 or 2 activities. Let's say the children are 7 in the home. One of the children can look after that small farm. Then another one can do the trading, because we are now talking of trading. Another boy or girl can do the trading now, selling what is produced in the farm, but also what other farmers are producing. Because remember, we have told you many times that the economy has got 4 sectors: agriculture, manufacturing. Because manufacturing, you may not be able to have a farm, each one of you, but you can now have, if you have now specialized, like you specialize in milk. With the milk, you can have a cooperative collecting milk together. I've heard that they will put some processing capacity here. It's now value addition, which is a low level of industry, first steps of industry. And then there's also quality control, NBS. That is all part of, then there is certification, there is licensing, there is border permits.
The Great Lakes Trade Facilitation Project, which received over 5 billion Ugandan shillings in funding from the World Bank, is designed to increase trade capacity and lower costs of traders, particularly small-scale and female traders in the border regions. He emphasized the need for immediate market usage and suggested that visa-free border crossings among East African nations be implemented.
Because the reason we had stopped markets was because of Corona. But a few weeks ago, you remember, I made a national broadcast and we said we had opened the country and we are now emphasizing immunization. So the border is now open. There should be no testing even of people coming and going, they can go.
According to Kasese LC5 chairperson Muhindi Bukombi Elfazi, restrictions on commerce such as visa fees in dollars equal to 10,000 Ugandan shillings for Ugandans to cross entering the DRC has hurt trade between Uganda and DRC. The fish market was the mostly impacted and has subsequently changed, according to him.
Your Excellency, these people, the natives around and traders, all of us well know that crossing to the next country, we do pass through migration. We are connecting with them, but what is challenging us is the crossing to Congo on a bay is still a problem. This was brought due to the pandemic because the border was closed. And I understand clearly, members around, I'm requesting the President of the Republic of Uganda that officially open our border so that we shouldn't get any problem because most of us, most of the traders, they are losing jobs and this facility may lose value if we don't utilize it.
The State Minister for Trade, Harriet Ntabazi, said more than 18 markets of this nature will be constructed as a way of building bridges to counter the barriers of trade between Uganda and other East African countries.
Your Excellency, in the same market, we have provided for a restaurant. This restaurant is also a business of its own, going to be rented out for somebody to start supplying food and collecting revenue. So, Your Excellency, we are creating jobs by making these markets available. And I have told you, Your Excellency, in the report of the technical people and our agencies that we have 18 markets of this nature which are going to be constructed. Now, in the one-stop center, Your Excellency, we have provided for the Minister of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries, because one of the biggest exports that we are doing in Uganda is agricultural nature. So, Your Excellency, we are going to have a big struggle with the Minister of Agriculture to make sure that they produce enough to feed Ugandans and then produce enough for East Africa and then outside. You have done a lot, Your Excellency, in looking for markets. And among the priorities that you've set is market access. The 5 priorities that you've set, Your Excellency, market access is one of them. And you've done your best.
According to the Permanent Secretary, Minister of Trade and Industry, Geraldine Sally, the market and the one-stop border posts will see an increase in regional market exports in the years to come.
So the Border Export Zone program was commissioned in 2010. And it was meant to cover the national trade policy of 2008 to ensure that the porous borders of Uganda are converted into official borders through that policy and giving us a land-linked country as opposed to a landlocked country. So these border posts that we are putting in place are really meant to open Uganda to her neighbors to be able to exchange trade of goods and services without missing out on the revenue collections, on the formalities, and all the formal movements that can enhance the development of our country.
The event, according to Uganda Revenue Authority Commissioner General John Musinguzi, is a proof that trade between Uganda and DRC is expanding. All of the government's agencies will need to cooperate in order to promote trade between the two countries.
And what we are witnessing today, commissioning of the one-stop border point between Uganda and the Democratic Republic of Congo, is testimony that there is growing business between these two countries, which had not been there, despite the fact that these countries have always lived
by each other, next to each other, but without much to trade. Your Excellency, the role of the one-stop border point that we have just opened today is to put together all the different agencies of government that facilitate trade to ensure that the cost of doing business is minimized and there are no delays. This is the main gate to DRC, as you already know, Your Excellency. Before the setting in of some insurgency in the DRC, as well as the recent bridge issue, we were clearing more than 3,500 trucks every month, taking goods or returning goods from the DRC. And a lot of the items that are taken from Uganda are cement, palm oil, sugar, iron and steel, beer, cattle, vehicles and bulldozers which are re-exported.
Mpondwe one-stop border post in Kasese district becomes the 8th one-stop border post after Malaba, Mutukula, Rakaka, Elegu, Katuna, Miramar Hills and Intoroko also set up but still awaiting commissioning. 2 more are being built, one of which is the Suamu River one-stop border post and Buko near the Kenyan border. The Mpondwe border market, according to the district officials, is a game changer for the town council, which has had trouble in collecting local taxes. Monica Nabionga, Smart 24 TV.
That's the President of Uganda, His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, the General, emphasizing agriculture. And he was telling people of Kasese and the surrounding areas that it's very important to first organize agriculture and modernize agriculture if they are to earn good money. But now, coming back to the one-stop border, this facility was funded by the World Bank and over 5 billion was spent in that project. So this is going to harness the trade relationship between the two countries. That's the Democratic Republic of Congo and the Democratic Republic of Uganda. Now coming to another story here, we see the Minister of Energy performance report that was released in the Parliament over the weekend. The ministry is suffocated by domestic areas. And according to the Permanent Secretary, Irene Batebe, the Minister of Energy has been suffering budget cuts and COVID-19 that made them not to increase on the tax revenue collection base. And this has made the performance of the energy goes a little bit down. And most of the findings that were found during this performance report, they were like over 5 billion that was meant to be given or to compensate those people who have been relocated from their places because of the construction of electricity projects, were returned back to the consolidated fund. So all these are the shortcomings that have been happening in the Ministry of Energy. Let's have more of this very story from there.
In front of the Committee on Public Accounts, representatives from the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development explained how the epidemic of COVID-19, which resulted in the country being placed under lockdown, prevented them from collecting revenue from mineral businesses during the years slated. They were accompanied by their Permanent Secretary, Irene Batebe.
Ongoing reviews of our performance, including sector reviews. During COVID, of course, we were unable to have the normal joint sector reviews that are now in form of programmatic sector reviews. But for this financial year, we've had the mid-term review of our performance and we've rebased our PAPs to ensure that we are aligned for the next financial year. So we keep rebasing based on those reviews with NPA. We will definitely resuscitate the broad sector reviews.
According to Honorable Angura Frederick, the interim chairperson of today's meeting, the ministry is suffocating with domestic areas that it has failed to pay for many years, and he urges that Ministry of Finance should find a solution to this problem.
Contact Ministry of Finance to provide more funding so that we can clear our domestic areas. Like when we look at the table which has just been presented by the PS, you'll realize that URA, we owed URA 9.3 billion. These are funds, these are stamp duty fees to register our debentures for Isimba and Karuma, and they stayed way back in 2015. By 2015, the Ministry of Energy was supposed to pay URA 18 billion shillings as stamp duty fees to register the two debentures. So, by the fact that Ministry of Finance did not have money by then, they requested the Commissioner General of URA, we have all the letters, to go ahead and register the debentures, and then that subsequent payments will be made. So Finance paid URA 9 billion shillings through the Ministry of Energy, and then since then we had not cleared that debt.
It is very disappointing that whereas domestic areas should constitute one of the first calls as far as resources are concerned in terms of payment, the Ministry of Finance keeps giving a ceiling to these entities. So whether you have so much in domestic areas, you don't have the leverage to receive all the money and pay the domestic area. So it's a very big problem, and we want to request the Ministry of Finance that the more you delay domestic areas, you're delaying transformation into this country.
The committee also learned that approximately 5 billion shillings intended for compensating Ugandans who were relocated in order to complete projects for the ministry were returned to the consolidated fund as a result of bureaucracies and a failure to confirm the correct individuals, depriving the affected of receiving their money on time.
Our processes also involve a lot of bureaucracy. I don't think the ministry would be interested in releasing 5 billion to go back. But the bureaucracy that is involved in the verification, assessment, then accounts opening, then conflicts that are there, at times are caused by our people. So how I wish we can work in partnership. We can start this early enough, such that when the budget is provided, these resources are not swept back. So it is unfortunate to see resources swept back. And it is also equally a problem. Once you have allocated an entity 5 billion shilling and they don't spend it, maybe you've deprived health money, maybe you've deprived local government money, maybe you've deprived other sectors.
The ministry has, however, warned the lawmakers about the rising vandalism of electrical equipment, which has cost the nation enormous sums of money, and has urged Parliament to help them combat this evil.
The very, very serious concern as far as vandalism is concerned. You are aware that of recent we've been experiencing a lot of challenges concerning vandalism, towers being brought down, pylons dropping, and this has led now to various agencies of government coming together and trying to see how to come up with a conclusive position as far as securing our towers is concerned. This matter has been escalated to the Full Security Council, which involves very many agencies and ministries and departments for us to really be able to secure this infrastructure that we all badly need. But as a matter of fact, that aside, the ministry, as many other ministries, has also raised concern of budget cuts, which has affected implementation of some of their programs, to include, as among others, resettlement of various RAPs along the oil corridor lines, the power sectors in the Karumas, as among others. So that continues to be one of the hindrances that the ministry is grappling with.
Given that the nation would soon benefit from the oil sector, these are pledged to the committee that they will raise their non-tax revenue collections for the upcoming fiscal year. Samlanifa, Smart 24 TV.
Yes, that was a report that was presented in the Parliament of Uganda in as far as the Minister of Energy is concerned. But what has touched my eye is the 5 billion that was returned back to the Consolidated Fund. I'm still asking myself, why would they return that money, and yet compensation or compensating people that were recruited must be going on? And this is some of the things that maybe need to be worked upon. And let me hope maybe in the coming weeks or next year, all these shortcomings will be worked upon and will enhance the performance of the Ministry of Energy. Now getting into another story here, I'm seeing the Minister of Transport, General Mara Katumba, giving guidelines on the road users He says there is no need why one should be found without a driving license. He gave another guideline and he was like, those people who are driving recklessly while on phone, you can imagine, people are driving on phone. We are getting to Christmas. We're already in Christmas, as I can say, but still the New Year is coming. This is a festival season, so we shouldn't drive recklessly. But according to the minister, those driving recklessly while on phone, the cameras are going to capture them and they will be netted as soon as possible. Let us have a look at what General Katumba told the country.
Among the new regulations, according to General Katumba, would target infractions like speeding, veering into another lane, driving while intoxicated, driving while using a cell phone, among other road misuse.
Drink driving, driving without a valid license. These days you have no reason why to be on the road when you don't have a valid driving permit or license. People used to give excuses. It's very difficult to get a driving license. We made it easy, we made it simple to get a driving license. So anybody who will be found without a driving license, don't say you are not told. So don't drive and use the phone at the same time. Our cameras are going to be highly activated and we'll be able to look out at those. For the riders, please use your crash helmets.
He continued to appeal to motor drivers and passengers to use seatbelts each time they get into the car and not wait for police enforcement.
For God's sake, don't wait to see a policeman to apply a safety belt. That's not what it should be. It should just be a discipline that when you enter the vehicle, apply a safety belt.
That it will not be the eyes of police officers on the roads, but we shall have extra eyes and we shall use our CCTV cameras to watch all those who will be violating traffic law on the highways.
Drivers who commit significant offences will be detained and brought before the courts, according to Minister Katumba, while others will be held for 2 hours, educated about traffic regulations, and then released to continue with their journeys.
It's just the minor offences which will attract the express penalty, but major offences, these will be arrested. You may spend the rest of the festive season in the cooler because you may find that also the magistrates and the courts have also gone for the festive season. So you may spend your festive season behind bars if you are not careful. So these serious offences must be arrested and held. Now for minor offences, you will either get the express penalty scheme, form, and in some cases, you may be held for some time when you are being sensitized. And if you are found to be responsive, then they will allow you to get back on the road.
Additionally, Nwabine cautioned the drivers to pay close attention to the information written on tires because tires are only permitted to carry a certain amount of weight.
Checking your tires. Tires are an important component on the vehicle and you need to constantly check. Most of those intending to move are likely to buy new tires or are likely to use the tires they have been using. I want to appeal to all road users that tires have information that you need to check. 1, the tires have expiry date. It is there on those tires, you can read it. The tires give you the maximum speed you are supposed to drive that tire. Before you move on long journeys, you need to check this information. Please do not have your Raum type of vehicle and load 2 sacks of rice that you are taking it to the village for your grandparents and all the relatives. That Raum vehicle may not reach up country or travel those long journeys before you get a tire burst. And once you get a tire burst, the occupants in the vehicle are all at a risk, and chances are high that that crash will be a fatal one.
Some of the major incidences that occurred last week included one on Masaka Road in Nausanke Kayabwe, where a global bus crashed with a Toyota Fielder, killing 3 people, and another one on Mbale Tirinyi Road when a Toyota Land Cruiser collided head-on with a Toyota Probox, killing the Serere Member of Parliament and his wife. Monica Nabyonga, Smart 24 TV.
During this festival season, it's very important to tighten the guidelines on the road users, because it's very important. People are getting off their families, going to the villages, and even some of the drivers, bus drivers and taxi drivers. So it's very important if you follow all these guidelines. Now getting to another story here, I'm saying the Parliament of Uganda paying tribute to Honorable Okabe Patrick. That was the MP of Serere district, and he had to involve in an accident which claimed his life together with his wife. And his casket was received in Parliament by the Speaker of Parliament, Amnita Among, and some other commissioners. Let's have a look at this very moment.
In his remarks to the crowd of mourners, Honorable Zijan David Livingstone suggested to the legislature that speed governors be brought back to assist combat the problem of accidents taking lives of many people on the road.
The prevalence of a government to reinstate the enforcement of speed governors in this country. And this is not to insinuate that the bishop was in any way overspeeding at all. But Right Honorable Speaker, just last week, we lost 84 citizens of this country. And I may not know the statistics of how many of those were as a result of speed or overspeeding. So if it may please you, Right Honorable Speaker, that the motion would be amended to include in the prayers prevalence of a government to reinstate the enforcement of speed governors.
That is in the law. So what we just need to do is enforceability of the laws that we have.
According to legislators, the Road Safety Act provides a provision for the speed governors, but these have not been implemented.
Yes, indeed it's true that we have an act on the speed governors, but the problem we have is indeed it's true that it's not been implemented. And now Madam has made it clear that we need to implement, we need to make that push. And how do we implement this? Because this comes with the budget, does not come for free. So we are actually asking every member of parliament that accidents are very fatal. They take lives, they lose. You know, we make many families orphans. Accidents are not planned. It has no formula, it can happen to anyone. But however, if we can in our own capacity to prevent it, then we need to take all measures. Now, like it's we, the members of parliament, because we appropriate the budget for all these things. Any act we bring in, those ones financially, they have impacts as well.
The MPs say it is not only the speed governors that should be reinstated, but also reflectors and seat belts, because many of the accidents reported are because of lack of the above.
Majorly the implementers of the law, the traffic officers on the roads, that vehicles should have speed governors, because this policy was passed a long time ago. The challenge with our country, we keep passing laws, but these laws are not respected. Implementation is a problem. That's why some countries say we copy from Uganda and implement. To avoid the accidents in this country, we need speed governors to be put in the vehicles. Secondly, all vehicles should have reflectors in case it has got a mechanical problem, to be put behind and in front, because the major cause of accidents, we have vehicles that people, when they are spoiled, they put leaves on the way. So you cannot know whether these leaves dropped or these leaves were put there. And majorly at night, for instance, the case of our late brother, the Honorable Bishop Okabe, it was a bit dark in the night, very early, and this lorry had no reflectors ahead. That's why the bishop's driver crashed into the lorry. Therefore, we needed this to be implemented. And secondly, we had the law enforcing the safety belts. This has been forgotten at all.
Speed governors, in the opinion of Honorable Sebamala Richard, are beneficial, but they shouldn't be used as a pretext by corrupt people to begin extorting money from Ugandans.
Dole has instructed that it should be important that speed governors are reinstated in different vehicles. The Speaker is right. She's very right. Actually, it is one of the measures that can prevent accidents. However, like I've already said, it is only a temporary measure. For a crash like the one that Patrick Okabe had, you cannot say that even a seatbelt could save you. So it is a temporary measure. It is a good measure. It can be reinstated. Let it not be politicized. Let it not be made a business, because it might become a gain for some people just because the Speaker has talked about it. So some people are going to go and start enforcing.
When Parliament reconvenes after the holidays, the topic of the road fund is anticipated to be discussed. Samlanifa, Smart 24 TV, Parliament.
We feel sorry for the people from Serere County and Serere District. It was a very sad moment for those people coming from there. Honorable Patrick Okabe, together with his wife Christine, involved in an accident whereby the Land Cruiser that they were traveling in collided head-on with a truck at Naboa in Serere District. Now, the MPs in Uganda are now advocating for reinstating of speed governors. They think that if speed governors are now brought back to some of the cars, or very many cars, or all cars in this country, it will reduce on the accidents that are happening here in the country. Now, we'll be going in for a short commercial break, and when I come back, many of the stories will be coming on your way. Just get comfortable. Smart 24 TV Business Edition is still on.
Smart 24, driving business.
The best things in life are the ones that turn out better than we plan. Bonds that turn out stronger than you imagined. Surprises that turn out even more surprising. Festivities that turn out merrier. Tukua Decor this festive season. Renew your subscription and we'll upgrade you to a higher package for free. GoTV Uganda. Love it.
Boxing Day Special wano ku Resort Beach Entebbe ngenda kuzomwezi 26 December jango umule ochakale horiya kumane ulira Africa Band Brand Official Clever J Coco Finger Mata Mkisa Mandratan Chiko Bakusese okwingira shinjo mtwaro gumu esawa munana ngendongo yatandise da kale be Kampala Entebbe Nsamizi Chitoro Lunyo Katabi Nkumba Bugonga Kijapani na Chuogo Bugonjo Abentebbe Rodi Mwena ni Kampala yonna musale ku Resort Beach Entebbe tuliye tuwuge tuzanyira musanyu omwaka gubadde gwa aso mulete byane binyiranga bisawe byekata omupira nga biguwereza mu Rwanda nasbahata hojanta chuma cha balamu sounds bitegekedwa Radio 4 olwo abatadde mu sente
everywhere you go MTN.
Family, he must have a maid because at our home we do not want.
Conductor Masao.
Why? Obadde olobye ku simu?
Yamunange, anti your TV enkolera.
Enjoy a new world of entertainment with over 80 TV and radio channels, plus movies from wherever you are. Download the GoTV Channels app from your app store and enjoy 30 days of free streaming with MTN.
GoTV Channels.
Getting together for the first time in years was a little bit awkward. Grandpa still tried to entertain us. Mom was always stealing the spotlight from the kids. It wasn't until Grandma cracked a joke
That's my favorite prayer.
that we got back into our groove. In this festive, DSTV is making family time even better with an upgrade.
Stay connected to DSTV and we'll upgrade you to the next package for free.
Smart 24, driving business.
Welcome back from that commercial break. The business edition is still going on. Now, over the weekend, Ugandan traders traveled to Khartoum, that's in Southern Sudan, for Southern Sudan-Uganda Trade Expo. And it's from this occasion that most of the Ugandan traders expressed their dissatisfaction over middlemen that have always coming here in Uganda and buy products not at a good price. Now, very many Ugandans went there, and Smart 24 TV got a chance to travel there to get some of the information from these very traders. Let's have more of this very story that happened in Khartoum, that's in Southern Sudan. The goal of the expo, which kicked off in Khartoum, Southern Sudan, with the slogan fostering economic success through regional trade, is to introduce farmers and business people to new markets and prospects. The Southern Sudan-Uganda Trade Expo was exploited by Ugandan business people and producers to drive out middlemen and expand market for Ugandan goods and services in Southern Sudan. They claim that middlemen were charging them unfair prices and that they now desired a producer-to-consumer relationship in order to increase their income.
In Uganda is that there are not so many buyers of coffee in Uganda, and most of the people who come there are brokers. So that's why we decided to come and attend the expo, and we are sure we are interacting with different people here. We are very sure we shall have a positive feedback to the end. We have buyers here, we have people linking us to markets here, and I think that will help us solve the problem of middlemen, because we have a very big challenge in Uganda selling to middlemen. In that way we don't get good prices.
Being the fact that Ugandans will produce perishable foods, we don't need most of the third party. It needs the consumer too, from the producer to the consumer, because of the processes that can lead to this delicate product. So this is why we are trying to eliminate the middlemen, so that the freshness of our product can be gotten from most of the countries.
Business people in Uganda believe that producer-to-consumer relationship enables businesses to understand the behavior of their clients and alter their business practices to better serve them. The Sudan-Uganda Expo, according to Proskovia Nanuzi, the coordinator of the Operation Wealth Creation to the executive assistant, comes after recent efforts by the government of Uganda and the private sector to establish genuine trade ties with the Democratic Republic of Congo and Southern Sudan.
Here in the neighboring countries, in Sudan, Khartoum, to say that we can use the space, that is the opportunity that they have, where they need the freshness of our products from Uganda, the apples, the pineapples, the passion fruits.
So far I'm grateful for this Sudan-Uganda Expo. We have been able to get access to some of the buyers here in Sudan. I've come to realize that these people know our coffee, but they don't know how it gets there. So they get our coffee through middlemen, and actually we've been able to get a chance to meet some of those buyers.
Uganda's main export market is Southern Sudan. Therefore, any hiccup brought on by middlemen has an impact on the commercial relationship between the two nations.
And we are here to eliminate the middleman, because when you find way back in Uganda, people produce and they get a very small price for what they produce.
The UN's contract database on the world trade estimates that Uganda's exports to Southern Sudan were worth $357.34 million in 2020. Data, graphs and statistics regarding Ugandan exports to Southern Sudan were last updated on 20th December 2022. I can see very many people who travel to Khartoum in Southern Sudan were traders from Masaka, and most of them are coffee producers. According to them, they went to Khartoum claiming that middlemen were giving them unfair prices, and now they want producer to consumer relationship. They always want to produce and get direct to the consumer. They want to eliminate middlemen in between there who have been giving them products on unfair prices. So they were very excited that for them they had to reach by themselves and see what's going on. And they went there to face directly the consumer where there were no middlemen. And I think that is something we have to learn, both of us here, those who are in business everywhere we are. Now getting to another story here. We're seeing the government has been urged to opt maintaining the public debt stock on concessional terms. According to some economists or even some civil society organizations, they're saying if we maintain our loan debt stock on concessional terms, it is going to help us. Or it is characterized by long-term payments and it has friendly interest rates. Let's have a look at this very story.
Concerns have recently been raised about Uganda's mounting debt and the rate at which it is increasing. Every year, corruption costs the country over 10 trillion shillings, including loan proceeds. It should be noted that Uganda's debt acquired under concessional terms has fallen over time, from 74% in June 2017 to 58% in December 2021, while borrowing under non-concessional terms climbed to 24% from 11% over the same period. As a result, the government has been advised to stick to borrowing under concessional terms because these loans have a set rate and a longer term.
The concession is usually characterized by the longer repayment periods, friendlier interest rates. We see government continuing to take on more debt on non-concessional terms, which is of course more expensive with shorter times for maturity and repayment. As for instance, we see that concessional debt has decreased over the years from 74% in June 2017 to about 58% in December 2021. That's just a period of about 4 years. While on the other hand, we see the non-concessional or commercial debt increasing from 11% to about 24% over the same period. So what are we telling government? We see that we are reminding government that they committed to contract more loans on concessional terms, and the Minister for Finance came out at some point and clearly stated that. So we want government to implement their strategy on contracting debt on longer term maturity.
Similarly, the government must address the interest rate risk, which occurs when interest rates fluctuate due to various macroeconomic reasons.
We want them to address their mind to the interest rate risk. Uganda's external debt is predominantly fixed rate debt, which is ideally a good thing. We see our fixed rate debt at 68.4%. This implies that our debt portfolio is still less vulnerable to the interest rate risk volatility.
In spite of the fact that the low domestic borrowing makes investors lazy, the government of Uganda has pledged to cut down on domestic borrowing. This will result in less internal debt, which will continue to finance the private sector.
That it has the net effect of one, affecting killing the businesses, the local businesses, and then two, also the potential of local businesses suing government, this kind of litigation. In which case, still, you would rather be culpable internally than externally, because the external culpability has even worse consequences. But then two, there are aspects that we can, for example, handle. One is domestic resource mobilization. There are domestic mobilization angles that government has not tapped into. One of them, which we have repeatedly talked about, is the issue of tax holidays to would-be taxpayers that would ordinarily have paid more taxes and increased on the URA collections, in which case the chances of borrowing would be lessened because we would be having more money to up our budget.
According to a representative from the Anti-Corruption Unit, in order to combat the issue of corruption, the government must establish adequate safeguards for people who come forward with information on corrupt individuals.
It's the issue of debt, because if you are borrowing this money and much of it is being swindled and is being stolen, it is not being put to the actual use, then we are going to keep borrowing and we shall keep paying, and we shall still have the same challenge of debt still with us. And we have seen this in several instances, including inflated contracts that are doubled or triple the amount that they should be, unutilized loans, like my colleagues have said, and absorption of loans and unfair loan conditions. And we have been seeing this. I mean, they've been reported about severally in the media and in other platforms. So we really must address the problem of corruption.
Government of Uganda put in place several legal policy and institutional frameworks to guide prudent debt acquisition and management in Uganda. Runana Habwe, Smart 24 TV.
Yeah, this is now about the public debt stock and how we should maintain our debt here in the country. If we opt to use the concessional terms, maybe it will be very important for us, because we can't live without these loans. You can, like I said, even IMF has also added a small loan. So it's very important if the government of Uganda can opt maintaining the public debt stock using concessional terms. If the interest rates are friendly, even the paying period, if it is too long, maybe it can help us. It can help us maintain, though we're sustaining our debt stock. Now, getting to another story here. There is a certain NGO, there's Economic Policy Research Center, that made its research in very many districts of this country, and they realized that most of the primary government-aided, most of the government primary schools in the villages are not performing better, just because their teachers are not well motivated. They earn little and they get no allowances. So they are not motivated, and this is not responding to the performance of the government-aided primary schools in the villages. That's among the findings that they came up with. Now, that's a recommendation. APRC was like, now government should look at giving allowances to these primary teachers ahead of their salaries if we can realize the better performance of these primary schools. Dr. Nakato was also there, trying to give us most of the findings that they come up with and more of the recommendations. Let us have more of this very story.
Many teachers have of late quit the profession and ventured into private businesses, complaining of low salary pay. As a result, the performance of the government-aided primary schools has suffered. Researchers are now urging government to take action to ensure that primary teachers receive allowances in addition to their monthly salary in order to inspire them for better productivity.
Because on top of receiving low pay, they have now to use this low pay to find accommodation, to cater for health issues. But if they have schemes like insurance, they have allowances for housing, or they have school, the houses, staff quarters, then they will be more motivated. They will even concentrate more when it comes to carrying out their responsibilities in the class.
So the way you appreciate them is give them some more salary. So, and that's one of the issues that's creating the hardship. that either like someone like Medina, we made you. So you're getting more money than we, but we made you. And our children are going to go through them as well.
According to data from the Uganda Education Budget Brief 2022 to 2023 by Economic Policy Research Center APRC, primary and secondary education budget has been declining over the review period and projected to further decline to 34.9% in 2022 to 2023, nearly a half of its level of 62.6% in 2017 to 2018. They therefore argue that there is a need for government to increase the budget allocation to education sector to improve access and quality of education in the country.
For you to move government to allocate more money to a particular sector, you need to have researched information, you need to have facts, evidences to show the magnitude of the problem. Because if you just speak without information, then government will think you are just there doing politics. So government needs figures. When you see figures and when they check and cross-check and find that indeed it's true, government gets to move it to act. But also there is that economic part of it. It should be brought out clearly. When we don't invest in the education system, what is the cost to the country?
The current salary structure for government-aided primary teachers, starting with new entrant, is U7, that's between 499,684 and 568,166 Uganda shillings. A senior education officer is at U6, that's between 605,100 and 613,485 Uganda shillings, and head teacher is at U4, that's between 772,512 and 980,211 Uganda shillings. Across the country, analysis of education sector spending shows that Uganda's budget allocation to education is the lowest compared to other African countries. For the 2020-2021 financial year, Uganda spent a half of what Malawi and Lesotho spent on education, with the latter spending of 17% and 16.2% respectively, against 8.2% for Uganda.
Thank you very much. Coming up from that very story, I think you've seen by yourselves most of the findings. This is what is happening in the primary schools. That's under UPE in some of the villages there. Teachers are not doing well. Some of them have left teaching, doing other businesses. So this has affected the performance of some of the primary schools. And now let me go in for a commercial break. When I come back, I'll be having more of the stories, including the KCCA Business Symposium and the performance of the Civil Aviation Authority at Entebbe International Airport. Stay around.
Getting together for the first time in years was a little bit awkward. Grandpa still tried to entertain us. Mom was always still in the spotlight from the kids. It wasn't until Grandma cracked a joke
That's my favorite prayer.
that we got back into our groove. In this festive, DSTV is making family time even better with an upgrade.
Stay connected to DSTV and we'll upgrade you to the next package for free.
Body of Mr. Namdi Wokiji was found at a beach house this morning.
When was the last time you saw Namdi?
At the party.
Did you notice anything strange about last night?
Are you taking money from my mother for this wedding?
You shouldn't be looking at that.
Ichi killed my son, and I want the world to know it.
pretty welcome back from that commercial break. The business edition is still on. Like I said, I'll be looking at the KCC, that's Kampala Capital City Authority Business Symposium that happened over the weekend. Very many issues were discussed, including the inclusive entrepreneurship and as well as giving people with disabilities accommodation in a town. Also trying to accommodate them in town so that they can also do their business like any other person. I saw Tony Otowa, Executive Director, Stanbic Bank Incubator, articulating more on this. Let's have more of this very story.
Uganda, just like the rest of the world, is experiencing economic disruption as a result of the coronavirus pandemic. Many people lost their employment as a result of lockdown restrictions that were implemented as a safety precautions to stop the coronavirus's spread, and many small company owners are still fighting to recover. The country's economic and employment sectors continue to be surrounded by a great degree of uncertainty. One of the key subjects discussed was inclusive entrepreneurship. Minorities should be able to be accommodated by Kampala's fiscal infrastructure. This is evident in the finished Wandegeya market, a facility set aside for the community. In all other centers, the identical procedure needs to be followed. Tony Otowa further sensitizes people about the importance of an inclusive economy, especially in Kampala. Additionally, they were urged to expand their enterprises outside their local areas.
Inclusive entrepreneurship or inclusive business is really about taking care of the people we consider minorities, or people who have disabilities, for instance, or people with disabilities, finding ways in which we can actually, create an avenue for them to participate normally like any other person. A person with disabilities should be accorded a convenient opportunity to participate like any other person. So that's very important, especially if we talk about resilience. They need to enjoy the same opportunities that we are facing or we have, and networking with different people, understanding what's in the market, how the market is operating, what's important in the market, and where the direction is in terms of the market. That is what will make you expose your business, make it grow, and get yourself out there. Most people are just within their communities, small networks, and they do not get exposed. And because of that, it makes it very difficult for them to really get their businesses to grow, for instance. So it's really about expanding your networks, getting yourself out there, advertising and speaking more about yourself, using social media and the different kinds of media to be able to expose yourself as much as you can.
Kasita commended Kampala Capital City Authority for hosting the symposium and spoke with Smart24 TV about how the city authority has assisted them in overcoming the economic shocks they have experienced due to the protracted closure of business. However, they also discussed the authority's shortcomings.
And whenever we need them, they're available. So you find that the issues of like loans, areas, you find cases they cannot come in. That's when we involved Ministry of Trade and then Ministry of Finance. And then you find that recapitalization will involve the Ministry of Finance and even the President. So we try to source for possible solutions, we as leaders. And then with such a great engagement, which aims at finding possible solutions, which tries even to change our perceptions. So we as leaders also, we have a vital role. How do we utilize these engagements to make sure that our members benefit from the experiences we get from such engagements? So we are happy that KCC organized this business engagement, and then we're fully going to utilize it.
It hasn't given us much, probably to give us resilience, economically exist, and then keeping us in a healthy state. Yes, there are a lot of programs that would really would enhance our economic, livelihood within the city. The gaps are one, the congesting the city is entirely on them. For a reason whereby, like I was talking about the physical planning, where you look at one arcade that on plan has a parking, and then at the end of the day, on completion of an arcade or a shopping mall, the parking again is turned into into shops.
When it rains, Kampala becomes a total mess, largely due to inadequate drainage infrastructure that causes flooding. Mozamilu attributes this to Kampala Capital City Authority's failure to carry out the city's initial fiscal plans.
So therefore, the congestion is likely not to decrease just because there is failure on the physical planning. And this has also led to the failure of the business. How? That the middle class from the higher class end, talk about just from working Nakasero up Enzi, Kololo, talk about, the middle class. They don't want to come downtown just because of congestion. So at the end of the day, we lose out a market that is very important. There is a lot of flooding, the sewage flooding in Kampala. But surprisingly, again, there are structures downtown Kampala, whereby they've gone ahead to go for underground water. And this underground water, it has been proved, 100% that some are contaminated by the sewage. So therefore, it squarely lies with the KCCA to probably go into the checks and balance and see really, is this underground water not contaminated?
However, KCCA also responded in regard to the law.
Abstraction of water from underground sources, there is a very clear law under the Water Act, whereby for you to be able to abstract water, you need to get permission from the Ministry of Water and Environment. But there's a twist in Kampala. We did a study and we found out that the majority of our underwater ground sources are contaminated. So as a principle, we do not encourage abstraction of water from underground, especially in Kampala. We have, under the National Water and Sewage Corporation, the network is sufficient to be able to serve the population, but you're also assured of clean water.
Monica Nabyonga, Smart 24 TV.
That was Kampala Capital City Authority Business Symposium. Very many issues were talked about, including congestion in town, trying to accommodate people with disabilities, business entrepreneurship, everything was talked about in that symposium, like you have seen. Now we are going to see the performance of the Uganda Civil Aviation Authority at Entebbe International Airport. Our reporter Bronia Katsime met up with Vian Luja, that's the PR from Aviation Authority at Entebbe International Airport. Let's have a look at this.
The aviation sector is a world unto itself, employing a sizable labor force and making a sizable contribution to the international economy. Despite difficulties, the sector was poised for significant expansion until the pandemic, after which it experienced a significant decline. However, it is accurate to say that despite the negative economic effects of these issues, it has been on the path of recovery and may very well return to the mainstream in a few years. Despite the 18% passenger fee VAT, multinational providers of safety and security equipment and suppliers of aviation equipment that cause delays.
There have also been some challenges here and there. One of those is the growing government debt, which as of 30th June 2022 was standing at 107 billion Uganda shillings, and this is mainly from the government agencies operating at Entebbe International Airport. But we are engaging them, even through our ministry and other channels, to ensure that they can pay that money. Of course, if we get that money, it helps us to invest it in infrastructure and provision of better services for a better passenger experience.
The administration of an airline, however, should be emphasized as being service-oriented and requiring professionalism at all levels, because it depends on providing customers with memorable experiences to build the necessary reputation in the international market where it competes. As passenger traffic increases, so does Uganda's economy.
But even as passenger traffic grows, it is still a big opportunity for everyone, because the bulk of travelers are actually tourists, and when tourists come in, they bring in a lot of revenue. They spend money in hotels, in dollars, so they bring in foreign exchange.
Recent years have seen the aviation industry confront external issues that demand competent management at all levels, ensure the sustainability of maintaining these economic infrastructures, because any financial leakage would result in a significant cumulative loss. As Uganda's economy grows, so does the country's air traffic, and more air operators are drawn in to benefit from the passenger and cargo flow. According to IMF forecasts, Uganda's GDP would increase by 5.2% 7.2% in 2018 and 7.3% in 2022. The country's air traffic is expected to follow the same upward trend. Bronya Katsime, Smart 24 TV.
Thank you, Bronya Katsime, for that particular report from the International Airport in Entebbe, trying to give us the performance of the Civil Aviation Authority with Vian Luja, that's the PR. And else from here, I'll be setting out. I want to say Merry Christmas, but remember to get us on all our social media platforms. That's Twitter, Smart24 TV Official, Facebook, Smart24 TV Official, and as well on YouTube and Smart24 TV Live. You can also get me on my social media platform. That's my Twitter handle at Pedison Mumbere. Facebook, Pedison Mumbere will be getting us live and clear. We can as well do business together. If you want to do business with us, just come at Nile Avenue. We have all the kind of business that we can do for you at a fair price. Enjoy the rest of your day. Merry Christmas.